private space fold!
Oh my god! Oh! Are you not recording? Are you recording, Crickshaw?
The title isn't clickbait and pretty self-explanatory, so let's just get into it. Can you beat Starfield using only Starborn powers? While going through Starfield's intro, I forgot that you had to use a laser cutter to mine minerals so you can both progress and release the artifact, meaning that this was an instant challenge failure. To answer the video title, no, you cannot beat Starfield using only Starborn powers. I decided to press onwards and noticed a broken door switch outside, which explodes every time I use it. This reminds me of my preschool days where I gave myself a nasty shock when I touched a broken phone adapter while it was plugged in. Though, I didn't die obviously. After chatting with Barrett, the Crimson Fleet descended from the heavens and attacked the miners. Since I have no Starborn powers yet, I can only watch the poor miners pitifully attempt to fight back and watch them fall one by one. Seeing how bad things were going, I decided to run away, only for the pirates to spontaneously drop dead. Weird. I also found that I did have a hidden Starborn ability. I could talk to the very dead corpses of the fallen miners, who were talking as if they had survived and not torn to shreds, which was pretty creepy. Next order of business was getting the artifact to Constellation, which meant I had to take the frontier. This is where the challenge took another bad turn. This is the point where Starfield introduces ship combat and I have to fight a few pirates. Unfortunately, there is no way around this. I have to destroy their ships to proceed, meaning that this is where I failed the challenge. Again. With the pirates dead, I had to fight the remaining pirates on Crete. And by me, I meant Vasco, who cut down the remaining pirates without an ounce of remorse. Once Vasco did all of my dirty work, I delivered the artifact to Constellation, who had more artifact fulfillment work for me, which is lovely. I joined forces with my adoring fan, then followed up on an artifact lead. I snuck past some ruined ships, which led me to an abandoned star yard. Once inside, I tried to get Sarah to kill the mercenaries for me, but with how abysmally slow she is at killing, I decided to just run past everyone to get the artifact's location. Afterwards, I failed the challenge again as I was forced to disable a ship. Inside, Sarah murdered the goons for me, allowing me to nab the artifact. For the next artifact, I ran miles to a cave that was guarded by some gang, who I ran past so I can get to the artifact. In order to retrieve it, I have to mine the minerals surrounding it, which means I have to attack it to free it, which means I fail the challenge every time I have to get an artifact, which is frustrating to say the least. Outside, I talked down the gang boss and then quickly abandoned her to be torn apart by the Ashta. Later, I was sidetracked with rescuing Barrett and tracked him to a hideout where I ran past all of the pirates. After some rather wonky negotiations, Barrett was free to leave. I then had to run miles again to nab another artifact before meeting up with Andreja to grab another. With another 2 artifacts under my belt, it was finally time in the story for me to get some powers. I trekked another 10 miles to get to the temple into the annoying minigame that I will unfortunately have to get all too familiar with. My adoring fan was quite excited at the prospect of me getting powers, and once I absorbed the temple's energy, I finally got my first power. It was Gravity Field, a power that doesn't do any damage, so it's completely useless. After a quick demonstration of my shout, I was given another temple location and began the tedious cycle of getting powers. I get to the location, I run to the temple, I do the small puzzle, and I absorb the power, and repeat the cycle all over again if I want more abilities. This is definitely much more fun than going through a dungeon to find words of power. Once I found all the currently available temples, it was time to travel to Baby's first cyberpunk to buy an artifact. The deal went wrong, I snuck past everyone, I talked down the original owner, it's all very boring. Once I left Baby's first cyberpunk forever, the emissary appeared and wanted me to fork over the artifact. I chose to flee in an attempt to cling on to this failed challenge and went to tattle on the emissary to Constellation. They ignored that I was nearly murdered over an artifact and wanted me to find more, which is as boring as the last few I found, so let's just skip it. What isn't boring is the infamous artifact heist of 2330. I smooth-talked the collector to let me take a peek at the artifact, then pulled the perfect shoplift technique of quickly grabbing the goods and making a break for the exit. Now that I've gathered most of the artifacts, the hunter arrived so he can take them for himself and speedrun this playthrough like I have. I chose to save Sarah because I'm a massive simp and let Sam share the fate of the last Sam before him. Soon the hunter attacked again, forcing me to escape with the artifacts. I then went on the most boring, pointless quest of all time just to track the hunter's location. There, the emissary and hunter properly introduced themselves and wanted to help me gather all of the artifacts, and pointed me to go to NASA. I grabbed the artifact, speedran through the building, and decided to side with the emissary since he doesn't ask me to kill his alternate self in this universe for obvious reasons. Afterwards, it was back to finding artifacts. Or at least I thought it was. I was sent to a parallel dimension filled with bugs, and with no way to kill them since I don't have any offensive Starborn powers, I have no way to escape. Which means it was back to the grand cycle of finding the temples so I can get more powers. At one temple, there was a scene straight out of a horror movie where I was cornered by a Terramorph while waiting for the temple to open. After exhausting all of the currently available temples, the only ability that I had that dealt damage was Solar Flare. And saying that it deals damage is maybe too generous of a statement. Not only does it not do a lot of damage, but it uses up half the quantum meter, which means I have to wait like 30 seconds to use it again. I opted to just run past everything since Solar Flare was so ineffective. Once I grabbed the artifact, I went to the last available temple before the final battle, which gave the most useless power in the game, Eternal Harvest, which makes fruits instantly regrow. This isn't Stardew Valley, Bethesda. Why couldn't these abilities be cool like in Skyrim? It was then finally time for the final battle. I flew away and let the emissary handle the hunter and his minions before landing and fighting through the Starborn. Solar Flare finally shined against the Starborn, as they seem to take a stupid amount of damage from it. Still, the recharge wait is pretty long. I was counting on the Adoring Fan to start making use of the minigun I gave him, but Starfield's companion AI is quite garbage. They're just too passive and defensive. They spend more time running around and taking cover than they do actually shooting at people. This of course meant that fighting the Starborn was left completely up to me. My strategy consisted of firing Solar Flare, then running around and taking damage for 30 seconds before firing it again. At least the Starborn seemed to be allergic to it. While at the temple, I was taken to alternate realities where I murdered my old boss, murdered the Collector, then murdered Vladimir for making me land at the eye every time I wanted to find a temple. Soon, it was time to confront the Hunter, where I decided to fight instead of talking him down. In the midst of our fight, I got a glimpse at the ending of Starfield Infinity War and proceeded to melt the Hunter with Solar Flare. The Hunter died and did a sick backflip for a man of his age and grabbed his artifacts and the emissaries as well. I decided not to enter the Unity yet as I wanted to see what the rest of the powers were, cause I forgot. I also bought the buggy that came out before Shattered Space, back when things were looking optimistic for Starfield. I tortured myself with the temple minigame over and over and over again, and after all that I had found, not all of the powers. Despite me having all 24 of the artifacts now, the last 3 aren't available for some reason, which sucks because one of the 3 makes a clone of yourself. Well, since I couldn't get any more, I subjected the citizens of the United Colonies to my wrath, and got to try out a few powers. Particle Beam does next to no damage for how much it costs, despite it being described as terrifying. Inner Demon creates a friendly clone of an enemy, but they've got some rather bad AI. But Supernova turned out to be pretty good. I was killing scores of worthless NPCs at once with just a blast, and there were piles of bodies everywhere. Still, the meter cost was pretty high. After racking up a price on my head that Micah Bell would only dream of, I escaped from the UC by jumping into the Unity. I talked to myself and walked into the glowing ball, and then entered the multiverse, and did not beat Starfield using only Starborn powers. That challenge was really boring. You unlock the powers pretty late in the game's story, and you only get half of them right before the final battle, so I spent most of the game just running past everyone, or having someone else kill enemies for me, which is pretty lame. I also wasn't expecting to instantly fail the challenge in the intro, but whatever. If you made it to the end of the video and enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like or a comment. I may or may not have run out of ideas, so that would help a lot. I hope you have a nice day and that you'll look forward to my next video coming sometime this century. Bye!